Mira had always known she was different. In a pack where strength was everything, she was the quiet one, the girl who flinched at loud voices and never raised her hand in training. Her mother used to tell her that gentleness was its own kind of strength, but no one else in the pack seemed to believe that. They called her weak. They called her useless. And on the night of her 18th birthday, when she was supposed to find her fated mate among the warriors gathered in the Great Hall, she was rejected instead. It happened in front of everyone. The boy chosen for her, a proud young wolf named Dorian, looked her up and down and shook his head. "She's nothing," he said, loud enough for the whole hall to hear. "I won't have a mate who can't even hold a sword." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Mira felt her face burn with shame. She wanted to disappear, to sink into the floor and never be seen again. Instead, she did the only thing she could think of. She ran. She ran past the torches and the stone walls of the pack house, past the training grounds where she had been mocked so many times before, and into the dark forest beyond. She didn't stop running until her legs gave out and her lungs burned. When she finally collapsed, she found herself at the mouth of a cave, hidden behind a curtain of vines and moss, a place she had stumbled upon once before as a child and never told anyone about. She crawled inside and curled up against the cold stone, hugging her knees to her chest. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. She cried for the humiliation, for the loneliness, for the years of feeling like she didn't belong anywhere. The cave was silent, except for the sound of dripping water somewhere deep within, and for the first time in a long while, Mira felt safe. No one could see her here. No one could laugh at her here. Days passed. Mira survived on berries and stream water, venturing out only at night when she was sure no one from the pack would find her. She told herself she would never go back. Why would she? There was nothing for her there but more rejection, more cruelty. The cave became her world. She learned its every corner, the way the morning light slipped through a crack in the ceiling, the way the air grew warmer near the back wall, where some unseen source of heat seemed to rise from the earth. She did not know that her absence had not gone unnoticed. Far to the north, in a kingdom that ruled over a dozen packs, the Alpha King had heard whispers of a girl who vanished into the woods after a public rejection. Normally, such things were beneath his attention. Pack squabbles and broken matches were common enough, and as Alpha King, his days were filled with treaties, training his warriors, and settling disputes between packs that bordered his territory. But something about this particular story caught his attention. His name was Kale, and he was known across the land for his fairness as much as his strength. He had built his kingdom not through fear alone, but through a code of honor that he expected every pack under his rule to follow. Among his laws was one that few dared to break. No wolf was to be humiliated or cast aside for being different. He believed that a pack's strength came not from how powerful its strongest member was, but from how well it cared for its weakest. When word reached him that a girl named Mira had been publicly rejected and had disappeared into the forest, something in his chest tightened with anger. Not anger at her, but at the pack that had let it happen. He decided, against the advice of his closest advisors, that he would go and find her himself. "Surely this is a matter for the local pack to handle," one advisor said. "You have larger concerns, my king." "There is no concern larger than the suffering of someone left to fend for herself in the wild," Kale replied. "If we cannot protect our own, what is the point of this kingdom?" So he set out, alone, into the forest where Mira had vanished. He tracked her scent for 2 days, following faint traces through the undergrowth, until he came upon the hidden cave behind the curtain of vines. He paused at the entrance, sensing the presence of life within, and called out gently, "I mean you no harm. I only wish to see that you are safe." Inside, Mira froze. She recognized the voice was unfamiliar, deep and calm, nothing like the harsh tones she had grown used to. Her first instinct was fear, but there was something steady in the way he spoke that made her curiosity outweigh her caution. Slowly, she crept toward the cave entrance and peered out. Standing before her was a tall man with dark hair and eyes the color of a stormy sky, dressed simply, but carrying himself with quiet authority. She did not need anyone to tell her who he was. Everyone knew of the Alpha King, even if few had ever seen him in person. Mira's breath caught in her throat. "You're the Alpha King," she whispered. I am, Kale said. And you must be Mira. She took a step back, suddenly aware of how she must look, dirty and disheveled after days of living in the wild. Why are you here? Have you come to mock me too? Kale's expression softened, and something like sorrow passed across his face. I came because no one should have to hide in a cave because of how they were treated. What happened to you was wrong, Mira. It was cruel, and it should never have happened. Mira stared at him, unsure whether to believe him. So many people had promised kindness before, only to turn around and join in the laughter. But Kale did not laugh. He simply waited, patient and steady, giving her the space to decide for herself whether to trust him. I'm not weak, she finally said, her voice trembling but firm. I just don't fight the way they want me to. Strength comes in many forms, Kale said. I have seen warriors who could lift boulders crumble under pressure, and I have seen quiet souls hold entire packs together with nothing but patience and care. The pack that rejected you does not understand what it lost. For the first time in days, Mira felt the tightness in her chest begin to ease. She sat down at the cave entrance, and Kale sat across from her, careful to keep a respectful distance. They talked for hours. He asked about her life, her family, the things she loved. She found herself telling him about her mother, who had passed 2 winters ago, and how she had always felt out of place since then, as though she had lost the one person who truly understood her. Kale listened without interrupting, without judging. When she finished, he told her a little about himself too, about the responsibilities of leading a kingdom, the loneliness that sometimes came with power, and the importance he placed on treating every wolf under his protection with dignity, regardless of their strength or skill. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kale made her an offer. Come back with me to my kingdom, he said, not as anyone's rejected mate, not as someone who has to prove her worth through fighting. Come as someone who deserves a place to belong. I cannot force you, and I will not pretend I know exactly what your future should look like, but I can promise you this. In my kingdom, no one will laugh at you for being gentle. No one will call you weak for caring instead of fighting. Mira hesitated. The cave had become a strange kind of comfort, a place where no one could hurt her because no one could find her. But she also knew that hiding forever was not truly living. She thought of her mother, who would have wanted her to find a place where she could be herself without fear. Why would you do this for me? She asked. You don't even know me. Because I believe everyone deserves a chance to be seen for who they truly are, not who others decide they should be, Kale said simply. And because, for reasons I cannot fully explain, the moment I heard about you, I felt I needed to make sure you were safe. There was something honest in the way he said it, something that made Mira believe, for the first time in a long while, that maybe she wasn't as alone as she had thought. She nodded slowly. All right, she said. I'll come. They left the cave together as the last light of day faded into evening. The journey back to Kale's kingdom took several days, and during that time, Mira began to see a different side of life than the one she had known. Kale's warriors, though strong and capable, did not look down on her. Instead, they treated her with the same respect they showed each other. She realized, slowly, that Kale's kingdom truly did operate by a different code, one where worth was not measured solely by strength. When they arrived at the kingdom, Mira was given a place to stay, food, and time to heal from everything she had endured. She was not pressured into training or proving herself. Instead, she was simply allowed to exist, to rest, and to discover what she wanted for her own life. Over the following months, she began to find her footing. She discovered a talent for healing, learning the ways of herbs and remedies from the kingdom's healers, a skill that required patience and a gentle hand rather than physical strength. For the first time, Mira felt genuinely useful, not because she had changed who she was, but because she had finally found a place that valued who she had always been. Kale checked on her often, not out of obligation, but because he had grown to genuinely care about her well-being. Their conversations became a regular part of her days, filled with easy laughter and quiet understanding. She found herself looking forward to his visits, and he found himself doing the same. What began as an act of justice slowly grew into something neither of them had expected. A friendship built on respect that, with time, blossomed into something deeper. But even as their bond grew, Kale never pressured her. He understood that Mira had been hurt deeply by rejection, and he wanted her to choose her path freely, without feeling forced into anything. It was Mira herself who, months later, after she had healed and grown stronger in her own quiet way, came to him and told him that she wanted to stay, not just in his kingdom, but by his side, as someone who had chosen him freely, the way she had never been given the chance to choose before. Word eventually reached her old pack of what had become of the girl they had cast aside. They learned that she had not wasted away in the woods as some had assumed, nor had she returned home in shame. Instead, she had found a place where she belonged, a kingdom that valued kindness as much as strength, and a king who had seen worth in her, when no one else had bothered to look. Mira never forgot the cave where she had once hidden, broken and humiliated, but she no longer thought of it as a place of shame. Instead, she remembered it as the place where her old life had ended and a new one had begun, the place where, for the first time, someone had come looking for her, not because they had to, but because they believed she mattered. In the end, the rejection that had once felt like the worst moment of her life became the beginning of the best one. Mira had learned that true strength was not about how loudly you could fight, but about how deeply you could endure, heal, and rise again. And in the Alpha King's kingdom, surrounded by people who saw her for exactly who she was, she finally understood what it meant to truly belong.